Good morning. Another day, another practice session. So today we're gonna talk about timetable exercises for double bass drumming and why I don't recommend to do them. So let me give you the backstory real quick. First time I heard about double bass timetable exercises and I saw them demonstrated really well was on the Thomas Lang Creative Control DVD. In that one, he demonstrated a regular timetable. I think it was like at 100 beats per minute, playing 60 notes, 60-note triplets and 30-second notes with his feet. And then the advanced timetable exercise, which is 60 notes, then quintuplet, then 60-note triplets or sextuplets, septuplets, and then 30-second notes, I think also at 100 beats per minute. Of course, executed flawlessly. Thomas Lang is the man. I never really spent much time practicing timetables myself, but I included it in some workout videos of mine. And now throughout the years, and especially at the Drum Technique Academy, after seeing so many students succeed and also seeing so many students that struggle with certain topics, I can tell you that many drummers out there fail because they spend too much time working on double bass timetables. In a couple of minutes when I'm sitting at the drum kit, I'm going to show you why timetables are actually not the right thing to practice, especially when you are learning a new technique. But I also want to give you the reason why I didn't talk about this topic earlier, because I got a specific reason for that. You know, years ago when I started to coach my students personally, I had many drummers that had issues. I'm just giving you one example right here. They had issues with relaxing the muscle groups in their upper leg and just relying on their calves when using or when learning the ankle technique. At one point, I just found out that if you lower your seat height drastically, then it's way easier to relax the muscle groups in your upper leg and just rely on your calves. That's just the way it is. You bring yourself and your body in a position where it's way more likely that you're using your calves and it's way more exhausting to use the muscle groups in your upper leg. We got outstanding results with that small change at the Drum Technique Academy. And what I did next was I told the world. So basically I recorded YouTube videos giving the advice to sit lower. And what happened next was, in the beginning, drummers were so skeptic because this was like something new and no one recommends to sit extremely low, and especially not at that time. And you know, drummers came up with like hundreds of reasons why this is a bad idea. So they said stuff like, yeah, no one is sitting that low. Then my answer to that one would be, okay, but what about Steve Gadd, for example, or Jeff Porcaro, and among all those great drummers that are sitting extremely low and have been sitting for years. Then those that criticize this low seat height as practice tool said, yeah, but if you're sitting so low and you're just using your calves, you're not gonna have a lot of volume and power. My answer to that one was, yeah, check out Dave Lombardo, sitting extremely low, playing loud, extremely loud, tight double bass, just using his calves, especially at higher tempos. So we also got rid of that argument. And actually, I think that's just the way it is with musicians. Sometimes they don't handle change or like new advice that well. But the results with that lower seat height spoke for themselves. And nowadays, if you go in the YouTube comment section, even better Facebook groups, if you in a double bass focused Facebook group ask the question of, okay, I have a hard time relaxing my upper legs at higher tempos, just want to use my calves, I want to learn the ankle technique, what do you recommend? The first advice you get bombarded with, yeah, low seat height, lower your seat height, sit lower, knee joints same height as the hip joints, or hip joints even lower than your knee joints. That's the advice. Now it's common knowledge and now it's perfectly fine. And basically with timetable exercises, I'm doing the same thing once again. You have like hundreds of drum teachers that teach double bass out there, telling their students to practice timetables. And I have to tell them the exact opposite. Don't practice timetables. I will show you later on why that's a bad idea. And I'm also sure that most of those drum teachers are way smarter than I am. There's just one advantage that I got that they don't have. And that advantage is that I see way more students working on their double bass drumming on a weekly basis, actually on a daily basis. Because at the academy, I'm coaching every student personally, We have a limited amount of new students. Right now you have to join a wait list if you want to sign up, and you have to wait. And I see lots of feet every single day, and I see what's working in real time, real world case studies, and I also see what's not working. And actually with timetables, I can tell you that it's not just a waste of your time. Spending too much time focusing on timetables actually hinders your progress, will slow you down, or even cause you to fail. So now I'm almost at the rehearsal room. I'm gonna show you some demonstrations of timetable exercises and what can go wrong with those. So see you in a minute. Now back at the drums. We will first talk about timetables and why, in my opinion, again, I'm speaking just for myself, for my experience and for the experience I've gotten seeing my students at the Academy succeed, is that timetables, when you are learning a new technique, like the ankle technique, are not the right thing to do. And not only not the right thing to do, actually they can harm you more than you can benefit from doing those exercises. So we talked about timetables and like the basic timetable exercise, which is switching from 60 notes to 60 note triplets and 30-second notes at, let's say, 100 or 110 beats per minute. So let's see a quick example of that one. Now let's talk about the reasons why it's not a good idea to start out with timetables. So when you're starting out, let's say 60 notes at 100 beats per minute, most of us, actually you can pull a random person from the street, and if you tell them to play at 100 BPM, actually some of them will be able to do it right away, and they will all use a full leg motion like this. Now, of course, when we are trying to learn the ankle technique and get used to faster double bass and just using our calves like this takes a lot of brain power. So basically, when you are practicing and you want to get the ankle technique down, then I want you to focus on just the muscle groups you are using and nothing else. That's why it's really difficult to master the ankle technique while being at band rehearsal, because you have to listen to the guitar, the bass. You have to think, okay, what part of the song is coming up next? There's so much stuff going on that you don't have enough time to really focus on your technique and the muscle groups you're using. And with timetable exercises, as drummers, especially when you're playing with your hands as well, just playing the backbeat on 2 and 4 and eighth notes with your right hand, with our feet, we always try to play in time. So when you are doing a timetable exercises from 60 notes to 60 note triplets and 13-second notes, your main focus will be to playing in time, which is a good thing, of course, but also this takes away the brain power to really focus on the technique you're using. And what's happening then, and this is happening especially with the 60-note triplets to 30-second notes and then back down to 60-note triplets. For drummers, when they're learning their ankle technique and they have been using the full leg motion almost all of their life so far, it's a bit easier to play the 30-second notes than the 60-note triplets. You can ask any drummer who's learning the ankle technique. Double bass at 150 is a bit more difficult to control than double bass at 200 BPM. It's just like the ankle technique. When you're first learning it and when you start with this nervous twitching motion, you're just a bit faster than 150. Most of the time it's between 170, 180, 190, up to 200 beats per minute. So with 200 BPM, if a drummer is playing those 30-second notes at 100 BPM or 60 notes at 200 BPM, they're using the ankle technique. They're perfectly fine with that. They're focusing on the note rate and playing on time. But when they have to switch down to 150, actually 150 is way more difficult with the ankle technique. And what happens then is that those drummers kind of fall back to what they have practiced in the past, which is a full leg motion. But, and this is like the really bad news, for most of them, 150 is a bit too fast for their full leg motion. So what happens then is when they go down from 30-second notes to 60-note triplets, is that with the 60-note triplets, they won't be able to use the ankle technique exclusively, and it's a bit too fast for the full leg motion, so they end up with some nervous hybrid of those two. And this is exactly the situation for all of you drummers out there that are stuck at one point. I'm sure you've experienced this, that you know what you want to play, and suddenly your legs just either they freeze up or like they do some weird stuff, like, okay, you're overextending and you're raising your heels really high, you're tending to lean back or lean forward or even to the side. That happens because your body doesn't really know what to do next, and there's no way out other than like brace for impact and trying to get through that section. which is never a good idea. You want to be relaxed at all those tempos. Even worse, when drummers fail at this exercise and they repeat this over and over again, then this freezing up and tensing up and leaning back or leaning forward, leaning to the side, that becomes the new normal at those tempos. So actually I had it quite often. The drummers sign up at the academy and they also have this mental block of practicing in a way that is destined to fail. As soon as they place their feet on the pedal, they cramp up, they don't know what to do next. That's because they constantly have overwhelmed themselves with stuff that they can't really control yet, and then they end up with storing something to their muscle memory that they actually, those are habits that you don't want to have. When I'm talking about timetables, I'm talking about you switching from different note rates without stops in between. So when there's no stop in between, then it's a typical timetable exercise. If I just put my metronome to 100 or 110 BPM and I practice 60 notes, then I stop my double bass drum. Then I'm getting ready for 60 note triplets and I can do those already and then stop again. And then I'm switching to 30-second notes with a break in between. That's not a timetable exercise for me. The timetable exercise that I'm talking about is switching between different note rates without breaking between. Then you don't have enough time and you don't have the technique yet, you don't have the mental capacity yet to really switch between those note rates with ease. So right now, let me quickly demonstrate what I mean when I'm talking about going down from 30-second notes to 60-note triplets. In this example right now at 110 beats per minute, I'm gonna just demonstrate with my right foot. So it's 60 notes with my right foot at 110 beats per minute, then going down to 8th note triplets. That's the problem area where drummers tend to switch from the ankle technique to this mix of ankle technique and full leg motion. Believe it or not, but the 60 notes are a bit easier to play with the ankle technique at this tempo than the 8th note triplet. So this right here is a bit harder to control than this. So in the end, many drummers that are just learning the ankle technique end up with some strange hybrid of trying to use their upper leg in a strange way, completely tense, and this stores bad habits to your muscle memory. Alright, and that's it for today's session. Let's head back to the car. So to recap this one, when you are learning the ankle technique, of course the easiest way to start is with that nervous twitching motion, and you're gonna start at a higher tempo. So at least 160 or 170 BPM, most drummers starting tempo is around 180 to 200 beats per minute. So the first step is being able to control that nervous twitching motion at those higher tempos. Second step is to be able to play at the same tempo with both feet, because most likely they are not going to be able to play at the same tempo at first. So now let's assume your starting tempo with both feet is around 190 beats per minute. Then it's time to slowly work your way down the BPM ladder. We talked about this one last week already, or in the last session. Working your way down the BPM ladder to 170, 160, 150, and maybe even 140 beats per minute. And then actually, if you want to work on different subdivisions, then it's the perfect time to set your metronome to, again, 100 BPM like in the example today. Practice 60 notes, 60 note triplets and 30-second notes separately to really store the right motion to your muscle memory. And once you got that down and you can start and stop in time with those 60 note triplets and 30-second notes with ease, then actually feel free to practice timetables, but you will see that they are really easy and you don't really need to spend any time practicing them anymore. Alright my friends, and that's it for today's practice session. Thank you all for watching. I wish you a great day. Cheers from Vienna. Bye bye.